Well, there are some strategies for thinking about how you generate the politics of your collaborative work. Global Lives is the next project that I've got up here. Global Lives is a really interesting project to me because it stems from the same kind of humanist impulse, but it says, okay, to make this happen, the producers recruited 500 volunteers who between them followed an agreed template to record 24 hours in the everyday life of 10 individuals selected to reflect global demographics. So 6 out of the 10 are Asian, for example. 5 are urban, 5 are rural. Half of the 10 subjects have an income of between $2 and $9 a day. There's an equal gender split and an accurate reflection of the global distribution of religion. So they tried to frame their collaboration to reflect the politics of the world. They didn't just go, here, everybody have a camera and send us some footage and we'll choose the most interesting stuff to make a groovy documentary. They explicitly acknowledged difference in the framing of their project. And that seems to me to be a very important principle that we should think about when we work in these kind of collaborative environments. The next project that I think is really interesting in that context is a project called Mapping Main Street, which comes out of Union Docks in America. Now, Mapping Main Street was a project that was explicitly developed in response to the use of the idea of Main Street in the last presidential elections in America. So there are lots of politicians talking about the values of Main Street and what Main Street was about. And this crew decided to actually really question that. So they set up a sort of a template for thinking about Main Street. And they've now got something like 500 different films from Main Streets all over America because there are lots and lots of Main Streets. So it's really a project about saying, actually, the image of Main Street that you want to produce, that you want to present to us as a political discourse is actually ideologically constructed to do certain things. And here, there's loads of other versions of Main Street. So its initial impulse has a counter-critical charge to it. It's not simply about reflecting, oh, we're all the same. It's about actually developing critique through the collaborative framing. Jesse Shappins, is one of the producers, says, that their work is about leading and designing frameworks that do have very specific constraints and that have very specific thematic and geographical focuses that can create a context for many different voices to come in. So, the next final set of ideas, so that was the politics of collaboration, final set of ideas, data documentary and HTML5. Something's happened recently that's got me quite excited. I don't really understand the technology of HTML5 or what exactly HTML5 means at a coding level. Don't ask me any JavaScript questions, please. I barely know what JavaScript is. But HTML5 is a new web language in which video can become integrated into the sites into websites in new ways. So rather than requiring a separate player, video becomes of the web rather than on the web. And this allows for a new kind of agility in the way that connections can be made between video and other web information sources. Existing databases and live, up-to-the-moment information drawn from social media can be connected to the documentary footage. So what does this offer documentary? Well, the Web 2.0 is an environment that produces data in a wild confusion, a sea of data. All of our online interactions produce data as an almost accidental affordance. Our computers hold and transmit records of what we've been doing with our attention. Our mobile devices hold records of where we are and what we're doing with our bodies in terms of what direction we've been moving in. Our devices hold records of our behaviors, and this information can be networked in unexpected and unplanned ways. This ocean of data offers new opportunities for the production of new kinds of knowledge and application. The entire field of mashup in which different existing APIs, that's the front end of different bits of software that allow them to talk to each other, can be plugged into each other to produce unexpected new insights. With HTML5, video coded into the web page enables a dynamic relationship to static and live web data. So one of the tools that's being used to develop this is called Popcorn. It's been made by Mozilla. It's been made as an open source project. And I commend it to you. Get them over here. Ask them to come and do a hack day for you. Get some development going on, because I think it's really exciting. This was an early experiment that shows you some of what might be possible in this environment. It's not very seriously documentary. Okay, so what's going on here? So this is a mashup of a Donald Duck cartoon.
Do you feel like you're working harder and harder these days just to stay financially afloat while fat cats get richer and richer? It's not just a feeling, and you're not alone.
The income gap between rich and poor in America is at an 80-year high. That's the largest differential.
But the information that's coming up in the windows all around it is being generated through the popcorn software that allows you to pull in live information off the web. So anything that's relevant from Wikipedia, the original sources of the footage, footnotes that have been entered by the makers can be put around the project. So that was a very early experiment that Popcorn ran, just to sort of see what sorts of things you could do. The next project is slightly more tantalizing. This is a mock-up of, or this is a video recording of somebody using Popcorn to work on footage as part of the 18 Days in Egypt project. And 18 Days in Egypt is a project that's being made about the revolution in Egypt earlier this year, where the people have gathered together all the different forms of social media that were so important in generating that political moment. What they've done is take one shot made from a mobile phone of people crossing the bridge into Tahrir Square for a demonstration. And then all the little windows that you see are being made available to the person that was actually originally watching this footage in the Popcorn test. As I said, this is a YouTube rendering of it, so it's not live. But these are little windows that are coming up with eyewitness interviews of the day, the Flickr feed of photographs that were taken on the day, the Straits Times newspaper reports from the day, the Al Jazeera news reports from the day, the history of the bridge, why the bridge is there and why Napoleon built it, and when he built it. So you begin to have this really exciting vision, I think, of a hypertextual, polyvocal form of documentary filmmaking where lots of different kinds of data and information, some of it live, drawn from the web, and some of it actually encoded into the footage, can be made available to people. So in a way, the original image, the shot of the bridge, becomes a kind of an interface that allows the user to dig into the events of that day and to construct a version of it for themselves. So the question arises, why is this interesting or useful in the field of documentary production? Watching work online is already difficult enough, as I've said. Finding the right footage is already a challenge. Viewing in permanently interruptible, multiply windowed screen environments is already difficult. Maybe the documentary might just drown in a sea of data. Well, I suppose what interests me is how you could use these techniques to construct what I think of as a new modality of coherence. How can we make new senses of the mess of data that's out there? Given that all the footage that's there is tagged in all kinds of ways, it already has meanings, semantic meanings coded into it. How can we learn how to edit those and manipulate those so that actually we can start to use these new techniques to make coherence and argument and engagement and bring evidence to bear in that very old-fashioned way that Bill Nichols talked about when he talked about documentary as a social practice, that it brings in evidence, that makes an argument. I think that we can probably start to use these techniques to do that in a web-native environment, and that's what's exciting me about this right now. So to finish, whilst polyvocality and relationality do seem to me to be important features of the Web 2 ecosystem for documentary, I want to resist hyperbolic enthusiasm for the political potential of technology. New media practices are about experience design, where creating coherence from technologically afforded fragmentation is the key challenge. Creating coherence is our key challenge, and with coherence comes argument. From the points of view of the producer of interactive documentaries, the challenge is to design interfaces and databases that offer a meaningful user journey for the viewers. This is certainly a different mode of authorship, where the production team have to work with their imagined users in order for the text to become meaningful. To a degree, therefore, authorship can be said to be distributed and meaning co-produced. However, this is more often than not a process of programming constraint and direction into the database rather than infinite polyvocality or connectivity. As ever, this is actually an editorial process in which some voices and ideas get silenced while others are given a platform, and that's okay. The examples discussed above really point up that interactive documentary can afford many voices, but it is still editorial control, rigorous work with metadata, good design sense, imagination, and a grasp of database aesthetics that will create meaningful documentary experiences. Okay, that's my formal bit done.